now be recorded.
All right, I'd like to call to order the Village of Ashwaubenon Finance and Personnel Committee, Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Chris Durwell.
Here.
Tracy Fluke.
Here.
Kelly Service.
Here.
Tom Self.
Here.
And Allison Burnett.
Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And please remember our brave servicemen here and abroad that are helping keep things peaceful and in order if possible. All right, action on the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Action on the minutes
Move
from
to
September
approve.
19th.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Comments from the public must be limited to items not on the agenda, must state name and address, limited to 5 minutes. Board's role is to listen and not discuss the item. Personal issues cannot be discussed nor individuals named. Board is not able to take action at this meeting. Comments from the public. Anybody? Nobody's in the crowd. Nobody on the interweb. Comments from the public. 3 times and we're out. Action on the consent agenda. Does anybody want anything pulled or investment report and a general fund financial report?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a
I got a
motion.
couple questions, of course.
Okay.
On a general fund, there is the unrealized appreciation depreciation, which has fluctuated a lot during the last 4 years. What is in there? And I noticed on the income side and the utility funds also has that. What is that?
So when you look at the total portfolio, then we have 2 portfolios, one of the general fund and then one that is utility funds. They pretty much act the same way. One just has more dollars than the other. Every month, there's always interest income that flows through. So this is really a separation of your total portfolio. And what those lines specifically are doing, those are the ones that are reacting to the market changes that are going out there. So you're always going to have interest based on your valuation and the rates that are out there. But as the portfolio is changing, whether you've got some things dropping off, so we've got a huge list of investments within there. Most of our municipal bonds, if you will, kind of like when we go to issue bonds and people buy our bonds, that's kind of what we're using and doing. So as some of that comes offline and then something new comes on at a lower or higher rate, right now, more higher rate stuff coming on, this is kind of the market adjustment to those. So over time, that just kind of goes up, and you can see month to month, it'll go up and down. This year, it's kind of bouncing back up. So for whatever reason, in 2022, there was a lot of market adjustments to adjust for our portfolio. In this case, people were buying stuff years ago at much lower interest rates, and now they're being, maybe some people are selling off some of those investments early. I don't know. There's just a lot of activity flowing. So it's really just more market corrections along the way. It doesn't change if you're an investor, it doesn't change your investment that you're going to receive on those bonds. It's really the holder like us who has to deal with these adjustments over time. So we're still getting interest. And then there's obviously baked in here, there's things like change in accrued income and realized gains and losses. They're all kind of related. I could, to get super technical on it, you'd have to look at each individual investment and how it reacted and where it's at, in its life cycle and things like that. So I guess you kind of look at if you're watching the stock market, how that ticker line is just constantly moving and changing. That's seconds and hours within a day. This is kind of the changing within days, weeks, months, and in this case years. So at the end of the investment, you're still, if you bought our bonds at 2%, you're still going to get your 2% interest. but it's kind of correcting the investment itself as the market is changing. And so that's why you see, for the most part, it's an upward trend over time. But there was a big adjustment in 2022. My guess is probably a lot of stuff came offline and new stuff came on. And so it kind of, they're adjusting for that.
So it's market fluctuation as opposed to depreciation. Depreciation should be rather constant, I would think, correct?
Correct. And these investments, this isn't stock market stuff. This is municipal government. So it's, most of this is pretty strongly guaranteed. So it's really just market adjustments that happen within. I know it's confusing. So what would happen is if, basically that's what's saying, if we were to try to sell these off early, that would be the hit or the gain that we would receive on that, because it would adjust it for what the current market is versus waiting for it to continue out its full life. And since there's, I think each of these have probably 3-4 pages of all the different types of investments that are out there, you would see, okay, that would make more sense, because you start looking at each individual one at different dollar values, at different ratings. So, you know, AA or a single A, or maybe they don't go too low, because it's our policy is safety, liquidity, and yield. That's the 3 in that order. So yield is our lowest priority, but it really is. It's just market adjustments for the current market, where that investment would sit today if it was sold, kind of view. And these two investment portfolios are very similar. As if one has a good month in that regard, the other one does as well. It's just at a greater scale. But overall, the investment, you know, our investment life rate of return is 9.1%. So even last year when we saw some of those changes going through, we still were at a 9.91. Interest rates have gone up. We're seeing more interest income coming in, if you will, just because of the newer stuff coming on is at a higher rate. But that just takes time. So if someone buys a 5-year bond at 2%, we've got to wait to replace that with something newer.
So Greg, even the interest income, the rate of return is at just over 2 in both of the funds, the general fund and the utility fund. So must have more conservative bond type investments in here, because right now interest rates are so much higher, I would assume.
Correct. Right. So it would be, if the next time we go to a bond issue, you'll notice, remember a couple of years ago, we were able to sell our bonds at 2%. You know, now we're not going to have 2% the next time we go out to bond. It's going to be probably 4.5, right? Same here, but again, with the volume of our activity, it takes time to replace the old ones coming off with new ones, and you have to, if we bought something 3 years ago at 2%, it's going to sit out there for another 7 years until that goes away. So yeah, that investment income should, over the long term with the rising interest rate environment, should go up. It's just going to take time.
Yeah.
And then it'll sit up there, vice versa, as they drop. We would still have the advantage of holding them until those get replaced out at lower rates.
On the revenues and expenses, why, under the expenditures, why is public safety so far under budget?
That's a year-to-date, so it's a year-to-date budget.
Budget is annual?
Pardon me?
Is the budget
The
annual?
budget's the full year. So they have another 3, I mean, they're the largest line item, payroll, all those things that come into play. 72% of our budget is payroll, so you've got another 3 months of payroll. This is just through September, so another 3 months of payroll. Most people, their expenditures are right in line with what they should be, and most of those are almost fully spent by now. Like Park and Rec's pretty much done with their expenses outside of payroll. Public safety, they have, I shouldn't take that, their training, they usually have fall training, so that would be some stuff yet to come. They have more training in the fall. But supplies and those types of things, they've pretty much maxed out their budgets for the year.
Greg, it looks like the village is doing pretty well financially. We've had, looks like a pretty good year. Looking ahead to next year, any red, maybe not red flags, but anything to be concerned about that might not might pop up or might not happen the same way as it did this past year?
No, in fact, this year, a couple of, really on the revenue side is where we're seeing the gains. Expenses are kind of coming in, public safety, their overtime's a little bit higher than normal because they've had attrition issues. It seems to be a constant last few years, and it takes time to replace people, so they're calling people in as overtime to cover. But from a revenue perspective, we had a couple things happen. We budgeted about $170,000 in interest income. We're going to probably pull in over $1 million. So that's a huge gap. The interest rates are so high. We also recovered the remaining funds of that fraud incident that we had a number of years ago. The FBI sent us, we were able to recover the last $110,000 of that. So we were made whole in total of that loss. And room tax is a little bit higher than budget as well. Room tax has kind of come back full, 100%, if not more, because rates are higher. So room tax is going to be above budget. That's a good number. And the interest and then some of those other, those refunds. Otherwise, most of our revenue lines are kind of right at where they're going to be. Next year, we're going to see, the state aids are going to go up, so that's a good increase for revenue. Interest is going to be one of those weird ones, like where do you want to put that number? Because you don't want to, in 2 years, have to drop it $500,000 when the rates come back down. So that'll be an interesting one. We're working through that, how we want to put that in the budget. And then, of course, this year we had the market revaluation, so that always has and it was a significant one, just the way it's been for a lot of communities. So that, again, plays into how we're doing. But overall, I think budget-wise, we're doing okay as we're in the middle of it right now. And we're going through it in line by line and looking at all the requests. But overall, I don't see any major issues that we need to be concerned about. It's really going to fall on that, like it always is, where do we want the tax rate to sit at the end of the day? But there's some good problems that we're facing, like the interest one. I don't see interest rates dropping next year. If not, they're supposed to maybe go up in December. So where do we put that line on the budget where you're not going to hurt yourself in the future? So those are good problems to have.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else? We have a motion and I think we have a motion and a second. Yeah. All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. 8A, consider, discuss, act on resolution R10-1-23, updating the village fee and permit schedule. Patrick?
Thank you. The village fee and the permit schedule can be changed by resolution from the board. What I presented today is more of a lot of cleanups for our fee schedule. What we've noticed is that a lot of times, especially with the clerk's office dealing a lot with special event permits, licensing or alcohol fees and licensing fees, we're looking at the fee schedule. We've been noticing there's a lot of cleanups needed in the terms of what department is assigned to which fee and which ordinance applies to each fee as well. So my thought process was, and the staff agreed, we all kind of pooled together and each department had their input as to what fee is relevant and what's pertinent to the fee schedule. What do they use a lot? What needs to be increased or decreased or restricted? And then which department corresponds to each fee. So I sent out a fee schedule to each department, and each department kind of had their input in the terms of what is, like I said, relevant, or if fee is too high, too small, et cetera. And everything was kind of sent back to me, and I just basically cleaned up the entire fee schedule, making just one sound master copy of the current fee schedule. Basically, it's just a lot of cleanups that need to be done. A lot of areas where it need to be addressed. On the far right-hand column, there's the ordinance section for the municipal code. There are a lot of missing codes on our master copy of the village fee schedule. There were a lot of incorrect departments listed. So really, what it was just kind of, let's clean this whole fee schedule up and let's make one master copy for all departments to use for this. And in order to do that, we need to go before the committee and before the village board. That was the majority of the cleanups, I guess, that were a part of the village fee schedule. On the copies in front of you, there are some red lines stricken, and then red lines for additions. Those are the actual substantive changes that the board does need to approve. The cleanup stuff that can be done with staff internally, But as far as the redlined, that's actual changes to the fee itself. So the stricken red lines are literally the ones that need to be removed from the fee schedule. So for example, in front of you, if you go down to row 36, there is a fee for managed market. So the village code was updated last year to essentially remove the managed market from the ordinance. So we're not charging a $200 fee for a managed market because they don't exist anymore. So that is literally stricken. The red lines are, the other red lines are additions to the fee schedule. So there are certain rows that are included or requested to be included from the staff, and I can answer specific questions if there are some relating to certain fees. But the red lines, stricken red lines are the ones that will be removed, but the added red lines are the ones that are highlighted. And then attached to that is the public safety fee fire inspection fee schedule. What we've worked towards as staff is kind of removing the actual numbers from the ordinance itself and pulling that into the fee schedule. So a lot of times in the ordinance, we will reference this fee will be based on the village's fee schedule. And we're trying to clean that up and make it into one kind of area or unit, I suppose, for all departments to use. So the village fee schedule for the fire inspection, for the public safety department, that's on one of the attachments, as well as the building permits. So my goal here is to, one, correct, update all changes needed to the fee schedule, and then those two will be attached to the fee schedule itself. So again, it's just the main portion for approval are the red lines and the highlighted areas for the committee. If there's any questions as to specifics, I can hopefully attempt to answer them. I know that the law department doesn't have a lot of fees, if any, but I work with quite a bit of them, so I think I can answer some of the questions if there are any specifics. Again, just cleanups, pretty much, to come down to it.
So there's really no rate increases.
That's correct. Yeah, the majority of this is just cleanups. The rate increases aren't necessarily. There aren't too many rate increases on here. There are some. The majority of the staff comments felt that the fees at this time were appropriate themselves, but there are some, for example, that needed to be included. So if row number 71, it talks about street sweeping, and Brian Richter and I had a conversation on that, and that needed to be included because although the village was including the fees, that wasn't on the fee schedule. So street sweeping isn't for your general sweeping; it's for construction sites that maybe push out into the road. There's rubbish from some individual residential or commercial property that pushes out in the road. If the village has to clean it up, that's what it'll be on. So that's an example of, well, if we're going to clean it up, let's include this into the fee schedule. So the majority, Chris, know that there's not really a rate increase on a lot of these. It's just more of cleanups. I would anticipate sometime in the future that some departments might look and change their fees. But as of right now, nothing too substantive.
Okay.
So if a fee was changed though, Patrick, like for instance on line 54, it's crossed out and then the new one's put in, so that's how you would show a fee change?
Correct, yes. So that's a great example. Line 54, the right-of-way permit for construction, instead of $50, Department of Public Works has reviewed that and felt that it was better based on, it's based on the size of the project itself. And it's kind of a $55 to $165. So if there is a change in there, right, the dollar amount would be struck,
Okay.
and then the new one would be added right next to it in red.
Okay, so the red lines, like the rubbish collection underneath is 100 to 200. That's
Yes.
maybe a new one. It
Exactly.
isn't necessarily a change. Okay.
Right. The only ones that are in red highlighted are any fee amount that's changed.
Okay. And then the Parks and Recreation, like fees and things, that's totally a different, you're going to handle that differently rather
That is,
than
yeah.
in the schedule?
Yes, Rick's and I actually talked about that a little bit, a different subject. That is published in their, I think the Parks and Recs brochures
Sure.
every year.
Yep.
And I think that's approved through the board if need be, and they kind of handle their own rates and schedule by itself. And Rex didn't feel any updates were needed, or at least need to be put into the fee schedule.
Okay.
So there's, in effect, what you're saying is there's not much impact on the budget, or just kind of I don't want to say, window dressing is not a good word, but you're organizing it better. Is that correct, or?
Correct. There's nothing on here from a budget perspective that would be quantitatively add revenue to the budget. So a lot of it's situational, like the road cleanup. I'm not going to budget that we're going to have 20 road cleanups. We could have none. So, but if we do, it's more or less touching that. Those would be things like building permits where we have a lot of those, or operator license, or a liquor license. That would have an impact to the budget. But anything on here, there's really minimal impact. Anything certainly wouldn't adjust the budget for that.
With the fire inspection schedule, right now we're contracting, correct? So is this going to change, or is this, are we using these same fees right now, or?
So the contracted schedule is actually based on a service that they're charging, and we do charge and pay for that based on the inspections that we have. So that fire inspection fees or dollar amounts, so to speak, those haven't changed at all.
Okay.
We're literally just kind of updating it to pull it from the ordinance itself and just put it in just one clean copy, and here it is.
All right, anything else?
I'll make the motion to recommend the village board adopt resolution R10-1-23 updating the village fee and permit schedule.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Items for next agenda. Anybody? No? Pretty quiet? Okay.
We got the budget, right?
Oh, yeah.
Budget?
Yep, that's right.
The next agenda should be the joint
Yep,
Finance
that's right.
Personnel Village Board meeting on November 14th.
Yeah, I don't think we need to worry about anything else, I guess. All right, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned.